2, 1. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I would like to introduce to you my special guest today, Barbara DeLong. And folks, this is a very special individual, one that we're all going to learn a lot from. Just to give you very quickly some of her background, she's an internationally known spiritual intuit, medium, channel, author, artist, lecturer, and ordained minister. Good Lord, Barbara, I don't know how you have time to eat, much less continue. So how are you?
I am fast. I'm fabulous. Thank you. The length of things that one gets in one's bio just because one lives a long time can be overwhelming. And I had a lovely man who does the intro to my radio show, and he read the script beautifully, and then he put on an addendum of his own that basically says an all-round good gal. And
You know, I was just thinking when you were mentioning about how we perceive a longevity of a life now. If you're 80, 90, you've reached, what we consider life, the lifespan. I wonder what it would have been like in the antediluvian times where lifespans were, I think, probably thousands of years.
I would agree with you. And, I think in that kind of a setting that you don't even think about ending of life, you only think about living it.
Yeah, yeah. As we talk, I begin to think about how our earth has changed and how man doesn't have all the knowledge and how, outside our atmosphere, how energies can change and impact the energies inside this earth.
Well, it is amazing, but you remind me of one of my favorite fables, and it's not one that I read in books. It's one and I'm not sure where I heard it. I wish I could give credit to the person that put it out there, but I have stolen it from somewhere. It's not mine, but I love the thought of it, and it goes like this: the gods created humanity in their image, and they were thrilled with what they had done. The only problem was they had not only created us in their image, but they had given us all of their powers. And they realized that those kind of powers in a young spirit could be very, very dangerous. So they wanted to hide the knowledge because they couldn't take away. They had to just hide the knowledge of it. And so for eons, they were trying to figure out, where do we hide the knowledge that man has this kind of power? And they just sat around tables forever and ever saying, okay, we'll put the knowledge on the moon. And they would say, no, we made humanity curious. They'll eventually get there, and then they'll find it. And then the deepest sea, no, same thing. And so these wise men who had done all of this, these gods, after eons of trying to figure out how they were going to keep from man the knowledge that he was as powerful as they kind of came to a place where they didn't know exactly what to do. And this old crone walks in and looks at them and shakes her head and says, look, I'll tell you where you can hide it, where they'll never find it. And they just looked at her like, oh, okay, go ahead, put your 2 cents in and then get back to your pot. And she said, hide it inside of him. He'll never look there.
So the answer lies within?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. And I'm learning more and more that as when you begin to peel back the layers and you begin to understand that all those things that you took as the foundation, as the tenets of where you are, yeah, maybe it's not exactly what we were told.
None of it is. And that's what's so exciting about today, because there is that, not only that awareness, but that ability to reach inside of ourselves, to touch it, to use it, and become part of it. So we're not separate from the spirit that we carry within. We can incorporate it into everything that we do. And because our spirit has chosen a physical lifetime, an avatar of a human this lifetime, we are limited to certain degrees because there is great density to the body that we carry. But the spirit within us has been able to teleport, has been able to, I mean, it is eternal, and it has amazing powers of perception. And in utilizing our mind, we can do things like astral travel, and we can actually understand what other people are, what their agendas are, and things like that. So we do have a lot of those capabilities. I think that to be able to um, get into a form of energy, a density of energy, so that we could teleport ourselves, would take fully incorporating that spirit into our consciousness and our understanding. And I'm not sure that's something that this lifetime that we can accomplish, but we can come close.
Well, you had mentioned when we started that the creative power, that we had the same ability as the gods themselves, and I've now come to understand that that's really creating out of the ether, out of the nothingness, correct?
Right. And let me throw a what if at you.
Okay, I love it.
And what if the creator, the thought, the energy that was the creator, um, sent out seeds of itself when it became so full of everything that it had the total knowingness of whatever its creator was. And what if it sent out seeds, and each of those seeds became one of us? And because we have that seed of the creator in us, we are on a journey to gather knowledge, to gather wisdom, to gather understanding, to gather experiences. And we go through dimension after dimension after dimension, galaxy after galaxy after galaxy, until the time comes that our spirit has that feeling of totality and oneness. And at that moment, it explodes and sends seeds out into the universe to begin the process all over again, while it moves on to another dimension of higher, lesser density even.
When I hear you say that, I interpret that as saying to each individual, that particular point of the journey is unique to that individual.
Yes.
Yeah. So, why is it that we cannot comprehend that we, in fact, already do create? And I speak of Barbara specifically of this. It's been said many times that as a man believes, so he is.
Hmm.
And that really gets back kind of to the very beginning, is that within us, we are unique and we have that ability to create, and we're doing it already. Most of the time, it's called worry. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it manifests, and think, whatever the balance of power is in the complete ether, is that uh, many times that which we worry the most about, thank goodness, doesn't manifest, because I think that we just don't believe it, that it's even possible, negative or positive. Barbara, that's what I believe, that we're caught in this loop.
Well, we are, and it's. I think. I think. I feel. Um, I correct myself a lot because if you're thinking, you're keeping yourself in the physical. If you feel, you're going, beyond into other aspects of our cosmic consciousness. That that so many people have the philosophy, have the thought, have the understanding of the mechanics of something, but they haven't incorporated it into their way of life, so it doesn't work for them.
Mm,
And it's sort of like you have to walk your talk. You have to believe what you're saying. If you don't believe it, if you don't feel it, if you don't live it, then it won't work for you. um, a lot of people talk about vision boards, and well, if I put a vision board and if I put $1 million bill on there, I will get $1 million. No, you won't. you'll have something pretty that hangs on the wall and taunts you from time to time. But if you believe something, if you truly believe it, you can make it happen. We create our reality by our perception of it. And it is what you believe that you become. And so many people say, well, I worked hard on meditating and talking about what I wanted, and that's great. But when you stopped meditating and you got on with your life, you didn't buy it, you didn't believe it, you did for that moment in time. But it's not a moment in time, it's all of time that you have to be a part of that wish, that dream, that hope.
Boy, as you were talking, Barb, I was just absolutely reminiscing that, when I was a practicing Christian, I was very much of what they called the Word of Faith group. And that was the name it and claim it group. And oddly now, when I look back, and that God spell has been broken over me in my mind, but what I have brought with me was this, is that as it is written, it says that if you would say unto that mountain, be cast up and thrown into the sea, and not doubt in your heart, but believe that those things for which you say and ask, believe that they will come to pass, you will have them. And it's really taking from alchemy, as I'm learning now. All of this originates into the foundation of what alchemy is in teaching us what we are and what the universe is represented by.
No, I would totally agree that. It's amazing how I have seen, and I can only talk of my own self because that's all I have personal experience of. But when I believe something, totally believe it, it happens. It comes to pass.
Yes.
But it doesn't. It's kind of like the universe tests you,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like, here's a little bit. Do you believe still? And and it
uh,
it's I think there that and you just reminded me of, I think, the most important factor in all of this lifetime is laughter. And so long as we've got laughter, we can make magic happen.
you know, I'd like to expand that for a second because I have been. It, let me tell you first of two things is that number one, when I finally figured out that what faith really is that it's the absolute core inside of you that you're just like, listen, I know what it is and I can move on with that. And it's always there, but it's always working. Secondly,
Yes.
joy. Barb, I do not see joy anymore. Why
Ah,
is that? I look for it. I look for it when I go out. I look for it in seasons. I look for it in celebrations. Barb, I cannot find true joy amongst our species.
I don't think it's there anymore.
What happened?
I think there are moments of it. I truly believe there are moments of it. A year ago, I got two kittens. Now there was the greatest joy ever. They were just so crazy and so
Hmm.
so absolutely full of love that there was a joy there. But life has become so serious. There is so much going on. We are, all of us, struggling so hard to stay with our heads above water, to maintain and take care of the people that we care for, that there's not time for joy. And frankly, when I served in the pulpit the very first Sunday I stood there, I took it so seriously that, Wayne, I am not lying when I tell you, not only did I bore them to death, but the organist took a nap, and I think I may have too. It was so bad. It
Oh.
was so chapter and verse, and this, and this, that I thought, oh, they'll never ask me back, but they did. And the next time I stood there, I said, you know what? This is a teaching platform, and I'm going to tell you about mistakes I have made and share with you how I have screwed up, so that you won't make my mistake. You'll have to make your own. And from that moment on, I had them in the palm of my hand because I had them laughing.
Yes.
And the more they laughed, the more I knew that my seeds were planted, and maybe not this week, this month, or this year, but they would remember the message and they would apply it when it was right for them.
Wonderful. Let me ask you something then. From your ability as a psychic and as what I would call a medium, a channeler that can connect into energy that
Yeah,
most of us look for, when is the last time our species celebrated joy as a species collectively?
collectively. Oh. I know the last time our species felt something collectively was probably 9/11.
Yeah, but that wasn't joy.
No, that wasn't. um, collectively. Wow. I don't think it's a group thing. I think it's an individual thing. I strongly feel that I mean, I get joy out of weird stuff, and I would imagine you do too. And so that because we're so unique and so different, everybody feels joy in a different way. But a celebration of spirit,
We felt sadness as collectively. It
we
seems like
well,
some,
yeah, that tragedy. Yes, we did. You're right.
so.
But but you know what? I think we don't feel it because we don't know it's possible.
Yes, thank you.
Because if you take a look at um, the times that we gather together as groups, it's usually a time of sadness, and that's when we experience something as a group. But joy, um, the marriage of Kate Middleton and who's the guy she married, the prince. I mean, there was joy at that time with people who were there present. They were joyful because they saw their prince marry a person, and they saw the beginning of something that could be very magical. Princess Di and Charles, another time where there was a feeling of joy, not 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 real elation, but joy and happiness and promise. But as a species, um, we have become so isolate.
Well, I ask this because I have been really spending many, many hours in deep, deep research and meditating, pondering, pontificating. And if, as I am to understand, the foundation of alchemy itself is that number one, there is prime and then there is below,
Hmm.
and that there is polarity.
Yes.
Something's out of balance, Barb, because if we cannot, as a species, collectively experience joy, how can then we ever hope to maybe ascend collectively as a species? I ask these questions only because I'm trying to put this in balance as to what I know are being taught of these principles of what matter is.
Well, you're talking as above, so below.
Yes.
Okay. It's. I think you've gone to an extreme. I feel you've gone to the extreme. You should baby steps, Wayne. Um,
What about Bob? you know?
no,
Uh, uh,
but
I love that movie.
it's your concept of joy too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets joy from different strange things, and those moments are precious. Those moments are the ones that people really do tuck away and hold on to dearly.
Hmm.
But pure joy, where once we experienced it, now our lives are so complicated we don't. I mean, it used to be, we lived by the land, and there was a
Yeah.
joy in the sunset and the sunrise.
Yeah.
And today we've got smog, and we've got
Artificial light.
yeah, and we've got smog, and we've got student loans, and we've got taxes, and we've got I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But the reality here is that the simplicity of life is just that, it's simple. And we complicate it to such a degree that we have erased we haven't erased joy, but we have put it back so far in our agendas that people don't take the time to take them out and enjoy the joy.
I would agree with you. It's an idea that it's like working a mathematical formula. You have to begin to look at it and say, well, then why isn't this here? Because it would seem like it's a prime and it should
Hmm.
be in there. And that's how I look at it.
That's true, but evolution and understanding and
Yes,
all of that is a spiritual concept, and it can't be scientifically explained.
very well put. I like that.
So I can tell you, I can tell people how to find joy,
Ah,
but but it,
and
it's
how would
fun.
you say that? How is that path? I mean, like you said, every it's individually. I find it now in the search for knowledge. It actually gives me pleasure.
Oh yeah, and you get high on it, right?
Yeah, yeah, literally.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's your pathway.
Yeah.
But um, for most people that I counsel, one of the things that I find is most important when I look at them energetically, I almost always, not always, but almost always take a look, and I see no creativity in their life at all.
Mm.
And the element of creativity is the channel through which spirituality flows to manifest within your reality.
Oh, I'm going to write that down. We're recording this. I am going to write that's poetry, my dear.
Now, the reality is, if you have, most of us in our I don't know, in our teens and early 20s, most of us are quite creative. And that's when life really clips along for us and everything, works well. And the older we get, the more complicated our life becomes. And when that happens, we tend to put aside the creative endeavors that we have been going through. And when you shut down that channel, you blank the channel through which the spirit can come into your life and manifest, and you take the color, the vibrancy, and the excitement out of your life. And so you are living a black and white reality, what I call black and white. Now, to be, by the time you get to your 30s, it's almost as though you've forgotten how to be creative. You've forgotten how to draw the creativity into your life. You've put it aside. There's something in the Bible about putting aside childish things. Well,
Mm.
creativity is not childish. Creativity is the key to everything. Now, so I tell people, get back to your creativity. Do something creative every day. Open that channel and let spirit flow into your reality, so that it's able to give you a richness. It's able to give you, so that spirit is able to give you the subtleties that you need so much in your life, to give you the joy and excitement and all of the color that is there. Most people will say to me, I don't know how to be creative. I don't know
Yeah,
what to do creatively. I'm not creative. That is simple too. Color.
there you go.
Coloring is, they did, now I've been preaching coloring for at least 20 years, maybe 25. I've told people to download mandalas for coloring, and to color for an hour, or an hour, half an hour every night, and to just do the coloring. And now, of course, they've come out with psychological studies that say coloring is a form of meditation.
It is.
Duh. So, but the cool thing is, if you really want a cool thing, if you want to take it one step further, after you've done 10 or 15 of them, look and see what color that you have used the most of and what color you've used the least of. And that will tell you which chakra is most open and which chakra you are avoiding to utilize.
Ooh, there you go, folks. That right there is worth just a donation alone. That is good, Barb. That is
And
great.
even though you know what the colors stand for as far as chakras go, when you get into coloring, you're not paying attention of, well, I got to use a lot of purple because that's third eye and I want people to think it doesn't work. It truly doesn't work. The colors seem to talk to you at some point, and you get carried away with a pattern that you're creating, or a color palette that you're putting together. Has nothing, even though I know what the colors mean, I find that I am drawn to colors that I don't particularly like, but they just go well, so that's a good thing. Um, it's something that you can use with children. It's something you can use with adults. If a kid is just coloring everything black, you might want to take them to an amusement park for a change and not make them color. You know,
Get the kid out.
yeah.
But you actually now you've taken this and you actually created what you've called the deck of initiation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because actually, I want to get one. I'm going to have to find out. I also need to get the manual so I know how to read it.
Well, um, send me your address. I'll send you a deck.
Oh,
They're not published anymore, but they are available out there on the internet. So, and
whoa! Now that tells you something right there.
oh no, when the publisher, well, when I put the deck together, I did it. It was a dare. I had painted
I love it.
I I had painted personal mandalas for about um, maybe 20 years,
Wow.
and there are 500 of them all over the world. So if you say somebody's an artist because they've sold their work, then I guess I qualify. But I don't consider myself an artist. Um, but I had been talking to people at psychic fairs after working them, and after 2 glasses of wine, I started to trash the standard tarot because I felt it negative and I felt it not appropriate for the time, and I felt we needed a spiritual deck, and I went on, and a bunch of my friends said, we make our living reading from these decks, and I said,
What are you doing?
yeah. And I said, yeah, but death card upside down. Oh my God, the world's coming to an end, and so they finally said to me, look, either create this deck that nobody can get a negative out of or shut up. And so 9 months later, I put the deck in front of them, and I had mocked it up, and I reinvented the whole thing. The first 11 cards have to do with physical reality and the chakras. And I renamed the chakras because I couldn't pronounce the Sanskrit, and so I thought it better to just rename them. Um, and then there were cosmic laws that are always out there, that are always in play within
Yeah,
our lives.
yeah.
And then there were universal energies, which are always out there and always at play within our lives. And then there are the astrological signs, and I tossed in some wild cards. Um, and so I handed the deck to them and I said, go ahead, make it say something negative. And after half an hour or so, they put a bottle of wine in front of me and gave me my wine glass back, and I went back to trashing their cards. Um,
I love this.
and a friend of mine had a restaurant in Stamford, Connecticut, where US Games is located, and she said, bring your cards down. I have somebody I want you to read. And it was one of his assistants, and she said, can I take the deck and show it to someone? And I said, sure. And Stuart Kaplan said he wanted to publish the deck. I didn't take a lot of work to get it. I didn't intend to publish it. So I told him it's a sleeper. I said, and it was published in 91. I said,
Yeah.
we aren't at a time where people are talking cosmic energies or understanding universal laws or cosmic energies, and he published it. So it was published for 20 years, and then he stopped publishing it. I got the copyright back, and he told me, I'll publish it for you, because he has the plates, and he said it'll cost you $6 a deck and you have to order 3,000. And after doing the math, I said, no, if somebody wants the deck, let them struggle for it, and that's what's happening. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's cool.
Hmm.
um, People are beginning to understand that the universal laws are always at play within our lives, and most people, if you ask, you know, what are the universal laws, they'll look you in the face and shrug and say, well, there's the law of attraction, and that's it. And
Yeah.
I mean, with the universal laws, the most important one is the law of one. In
That's what
other
it is.
words,
That starts. That's where it all is.
yeah. So I mean, and
One is all, and all is one.
these are concepts that we've had and that have been in play within our lives since the beginning of humanity. And people don't understand them.
Well, help me. I'm going to, an observation of mine in my reading, and I've been really trying to find where the school of alchemy is at. And what I have found, and I correlate this to my life experience, was that the last known school went out of business in early 1991, 92. And as I begin to think back in my experiences, there was something that happened to our planet in the late 70s. There was this spiritual energy that came through. It manifested in many different ways. It manifested as the charismatic movement of the late 70s that carried into the early part of the 80s. There was an awakening of, I studied Edgar Casey, and beginning to find that there was an alternate to my theology, I guess.
Hmm.
And then it seems like, Barb, something happened about, and as we entered into the 90s, that something happened. And I'm saying this kind of because I'm thinking as I'm going here, that it seems like there was a collapse. And for about 10 years, there was no spirituality, I guess, in seeking amongst mankind. But that seems to have changed.
Well, in the 90s, um, how do I put this? There are a lot of people on the planet that carry light body energy,
Hmm.
and there are a lot that don't. And people who come into this incarnation and have light body energy have a drive, a push, a calling that they can't identify, and yet they know it's there. And it was in the early 90s that these energies were triggered. And it was, for a lot of people, for me it was a car accident.
For
For a
me,
lot,
it was almost dying with spinal meningitis and Lyme disease.
that would do it.
Yeah,
That would do it. And
1992.
what it did was it unlocked the storehouse that you carry within, that has all of the cosmic, and you are your own hall of records,
Oh,
and it
wow.
opened you to it.
I love this. I'm writing this down, lady. And folks, if you aren't doing the same thing, you are blowing it. All right, continue on. I love this.
So while we all carry our own hall of records, not everybody is ready this incarnation to utilize the material to bring into and incorporate the wisdom, the insight, the magic into their everyday life. And that's okay, because we will incarnate into this reality as often as we need to until we move on to the next reality, where we could spend thousands of years incarnating. It doesn't, there is no time. So that it is a process that will go, it will, it's like the Pope's answer to Michelangelo: when is it going to be done? When it's done.
Right.
um,
Exactly.
so it's there's no, oh God, I have a final coming. It's I will incorporate it until I can. In the 70s, Rod Steiger, along with NASA, put together a list of, they called them star children qualities. And they are the same qualities that I call my my light body energy qualities. A drive, a fascination with antiquity, a knowingness that I'm meant to do or say or be something, but damn, I don't know what it is. It's a drive that is insatiable.
Yeah.
And what's incredibly wonderful about it is that magic happens in your life when you're on the right track. When you hit a brick wall, chances are you haven't been creative, or or it's not the direction you're supposed to go, and you're just too damn stupid to see the subtleties the universe has sent you. I mean,
Nah.
I call them my 2 by 4 moments, and I still have them.
Yeah,
So, even
we all
though,
do.
I bump against a brick wall and it's like, well, this isn't a big brick wall. Maybe I can, maybe it's just I need time and patience. And sometimes that is the case. But for the most point, if we pay attention to the subtleties that happen in our life, we cannot go wrong.
I'm sorry, you just gave me a thought, and I know this is going to sound bizarre, but when you talk about creativity, right?
Yep.
That each individual has this natural ability in which to create. Now, hear me out on this, Barb, and I know this is going to sound this is how my mind works. So, I have been an advocate with Mike Rowe in and now I understand what's going on here. Mike Rowe, who used to do dirty jobs, has now formed a foundation in which getting apprentices back into the trades. Hear me
Hmm.
out on this, Barb. So, in the industrialization, the what we called the Industrial Revolution, most people had a trade. It was a
Yeah.
creative aspect. They were, and hear me out, they were apprentices, and then you became a journeyman, and then you became a master. And what technology has done, Barb, is that I didn't realize this, but we were actually practicing alchemy as a collective consciousness because when you're a carpenter, you're working with wood, you're creating wood, a stonemason. I just go through this whole thing. And I think that this is what I'm seeing now is that there is this awakening happening where people are realizing I don't need to go to a university and get into debt. What I need to do now is begin to find out that I can work as an alchemist and becoming an apprentice, becoming eventually a master.
Yeah, this only works if you get joy out of it.
Yes, and that's what my point is because that's what they were showing actually in this episode of This Old House was the fact that this is where people in their 40s are now going. They're
Mhm.
leaving their master's degrees, their PhDs, and you know what they're doing? They're applying to become apprentices for plumbers, apprentices for carpenters.
Yes, that's it. And it's following their joy. It's
Yeah.
following it's bringing light and life into them, into their world, and it's amazing. And if we come into this incarnation pre-programmed with our joys.
Wow.
And if you look at children, when between birth and 3 or 4, and you look at what they are drawn to, what they enjoy the most, what they flow towards the most, and you encourage those directions, that person, that child will be successful in everything they do.
Wow. You know what?
it's it's
Oh,
all it, you know it's only when we sit down and say you have to have a job and you have to earn money and you have to do this. When I was very, very young, um, I taught school to all my dolls. I became a teacher. Um, and I did church services for all of my pets. I became a minister. And the thing that my mother knew she could put me down in front of or with, and I would be gone for 3 or 4 hours. You know those paper doilies you can peel apart that they put pastries on and stuff like that?
yeah. Yep.
I used to I used to paint them, and I could get lost in painting them forever.
Wow.
I created mandalas,
Yes. Yes.
and they opened up the world to me.
And Barb, you sound like you are a joyful soul.
Absolutely, absolutely. And happier since I have been. I taught school for 25 years, and had a car accident and had to stop teaching. And had I listened to my bliss, I wouldn't have had the car accident. But I have I told you this story before? Because this is a cool story.
I want to hear it. I know our audience does as well.
Um, for the longest time, I had been told by people you should be doing the metaphysical stuff full time, and it was like I have 2 master's degrees and I'm a single parent. No way I'm walking away from this paycheck. Um,
Are you crazy?
yeah, but when I retire, I will do it. And I said that, and it's something I should caution people. If you're really unhappy in what you're doing, don't say it too often because the universe will step in and make it happen, even if you don't have the courage to. Um,
Oh.
I had a car accident, and I was on. I couldn't teach. I had vertigo, and so my mother said, "Well, you can do readings," and I said, "No, I don't believe in living on the spiritual work. I believe that should be given away as much as possible. So no, I'm not doing readings because I don't think that's the right thing to do." And I had a lot of bills because my son was in college, and they mounted tremendously.
I
And
bet they do.
somebody somebody said to me, "Have you applied for your disability insurance?" And I said, "I only made one payment. I'm pretty sure that's not going to pay out on this." And they said, "No, no, it will." And I applied, and they sent a check first that was retroactive to the time of the car accident, and it was a $5,000 check, which helped a lot. And my mother said, "Okay, so now you have a little money coming in." And I said, "Are you kidding me? That doesn't come up to my salary. Give me a break." And another couple months went by, and the bills mounted again. And she said, "I can only help with a roof over your head and food in your mouth. I can't pay your bills." And I said, "No, you're not supposed to." And somebody suggested that I apply for SSI, and I said, "I have a job. I don't need that." And then they said, "It's your money. You should go get it." And with that, I applied, and they told me, "Well, you're usually turned down at least 3 times before you get it." And I said, "I understand that." And I said, "I don't really expect to get it, but I am covering all my bases here." And I gave them all my paperwork. 3 weeks later, I was approved, and I got a check for $5,000 retroactive to the car accident. And yeah.
3 or 4 weeks is that's God moving the sun backwards, folks.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And my mother said, "Well, now?" And I said, "No, it's nice, but it's not enough." And at this point, she was pretty much all gray and blaming me for it. And I said, "No, I think we have genes to blame for that. And if you're really upset, diet." Um, so I waited, and about 4 months later, the school system said, "Look, you're a special ed teacher. There's no way you're going to be able to get back in the classroom. Let us give you early retirement." And I said, "No, because that's my job and that's what I know." And well, anyhow, they were very forceful. Um, and when the first check came in, retroactive to the beginning of the accident, it was another $5,000. And when I took the 3 checks and put them together, they added up to, Wayne, to the dollar of my last paycheck.
Someone trying to say something to you?
Well, then I got it. And I said to my mother, "Okay, now I'll go back to work."
Excellent.
But it
Excellent.
took about a year.
Yeah, but that's a valuable lesson.
Well, I think it's important that you not have, especially in this field, in any field, but for
Yeah.
me, especially in this field, to not let your ego make your choices.
Ooh, man, I'll tell you what, folks. I did that. I love that. Ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if and if I thought, "I'm so hot at this, I'm so good at this," if that was what I believed, that was my ego. I mean, I sincerely learn from every person I talk to, and I hope that they learn from me. But it's not, if your ego is in there, if you are out to have people think you're so good at what you do and all of this, that's not the point of it. The point of it is, this is how I spiritually expand myself, and everybody has a different way.
And I was going to ask you that. So, do when most people come to you for, you know, readings, for um, coaching. That's why I always look at it. What it,
Counseling.
counseling? What is do you? Is there a number one thing that most people are looking for?
Used to be, I would get people, especially when I did psychic fairs, about, when am I going to meet my soulmate and when am I going to change my job? And today I'm getting people who are, how do I know what my pathway is? How do I find my pathway? Um, how do I discover more about myself? Mostly I am talking to people about discovering themselves and how they apply to their reality and how they interact with other people. I think one of the most important things that I say to people these days is you have to understand the spirit inside you did not come here to serve humanity. It came here to grow and to learn from the experience of a lifetime. So you didn't, one woman said to me, I came here to heal people. And I said, no, you didn't. You came here to heal yourself,
Yeah,
absolutely, but
there
you
you
didn't
go.
come here to heal others, because you're not even addressing your issues in trying to heal other people. There's, I forget where it is, but it's heal or heal thyself.
Yeah,
Um, so that we're here to develop and to draw in wisdom and energy and knowledge and experience to the spirit we carry within us. And if that enhances other people's lives too, that's great.
yeah.
But that's not the focus. And if people are and I tell people the Martyr Club has been closed for decades. They are they aren't, there are no applications being taken. It's
I like
closed.
that. I love it. The Martyrs Club. So when I hear that, and this is what I've kind of interpreted what the meaning of life is for myself. And I tell people all the time is that I've come to find out the meaning of life is about you.
Yes.
It's about your journey.
Yes.
It's not that complicated, folks. You
No.
know, I mean,
And
it,
there's nothing that says it has to be a hard journey.
no, and that's what's so freaked out, I think about this whole journey that as I see it, I'm so glad to hear people I was like I said, I was very heavily involved in the church for in right before woke up to all this, was helping to make systems for
Hmm.
them. And what I have really come to discover was this is that episode was really a distraction, because I'll tell you why. And this is the thing I always tell people now. Religion for me was that it was a crutch. I did
Hmm.
not have to look within. I had a golden ticket that gave me the exemption. I can go ahead and pass go without ever looking within.
Yeah. But that trip is a loop and it takes you right back to square one.
And it does. And it was just like, well, now this really sucks. And I'll tell you what I really began to think about. It was like, well, reincarnation. And I began to think, okay, um, am I going to figure it out all this time? The odds are, I don't know how many times I've been here prior. So
Probably a lot.
I'm beginning to realize it, because I have found where for my creativity are my research and then interpreting them into a visual format.
Yeah. And but it's, I think what I love the best about life is that we don't pass into the next dimension or level or whatever it is, to the other side. We don't cross over until we're finished. So so many people say, well, I have so much yet to do. And when you come to the purpose of a lifetime, and especially if you feel you have a calling, that calling could easily be holding a door open for somebody and smiling at them as they pass through. It doesn't have to be a book or a video or a whatever. The purpose of a lifetime is a soul purpose. It's not an ego purpose.
Ooh. Good point. A sole purpose.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I tell you, and that's exactly what I think that people are looking for. I know for myself, Barb, it's been an awakening period that I am so grateful and so thankful for. Um, I have
It's
finally begun to find out that balance inside, and it's an unusual feeling.
it's
You know,
if you are being creative in some form or another, and you are, because you're certainly doing all of your work, and this work is obviously creative too. But if you're doing it all, then you don't have to really look for the next step, because it's always there in front of you. It appears. And another old hackneyed verse is, when the teacher is ready, the student appears. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. The reality is we're both.
yes. Ooh, very girl. I could just be around you for like going, okay. That's good though. That is so good. And it's so true. I try to tell the people that listen to my videos, and I'm thankful that each one of them that they really want to listen to what I've got to say, but um, is that we've got to wake up to the fact, Barb, that we really are very unique beings, each
Oh
one of us.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're a piece of a cosmic puzzle, and without us it's not complete.
Oh, so good. Did you hear that, folks? It's not complete unless you complete what you were here for.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've gotten over a little bit over the hour time, Barb, but before we say goodbye here, um, in which I want you back if you would love. I mean, this is
I would love to come back.
okay because I could see where you and I could become really good friends.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm thinking, where can I put him with my show?
um, there is just an energy, and Barb, I try to give to everyone who's listening a golden nugget that they can take with them. What could you give them today that would be something that, every one of us are fighting battles personally. It's how life is. There's things that attack us, there's things that come at us, and sometimes just the stresses of life. So, Barbara, what could you give someone to give them that, saying, here's this nugget you need to think about?
I would suggest that everybody get a very long piece of ribbon and spend the afternoon tying knots in it for every blessing they have.
Ooh.
And when they're all done tying knots, if they think they've finished it, to tie it in a circle and stick it around their neck. And when things get tough, feel all the knots and realize that you are more blessed than you are anything else. And those blessings are what will carry you through.
Woo, folks, I'm telling you, go over to barbaradelong.com, get signed up for her newsletter, and look into what this woman has to say. You know, Barbara, I just want to add affirmation to what you just said. There was a time in my life where it was really dark. It was hard. It was really hard. And when I didn't have anything, I sat down with a legal pad and I did just that. I started writing out everything that I was thankful for. After about the end of two pads of paper, I finally figured it out that, the depression that was on me was self imposed. I had so much more to be grateful for.
Sorry
So,
about the clock.
no. So I just want to say that was spot on, just spot on. Absolutely. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you, Barbara, for coming on. Folks, go over. She has a YouTube channel. I'm going to leave the link and we will have you back. Barb, I just think that the time is now. People want to hear this. And I believe that you're the person who has gone down the path that we can learn from.
Well, only so far. I have a long way to go yet.
Yes, well, you know what? I know this. You've been down a little bit further than I have. That's good for me. All right. Well, thank you all. We'll be back again real soon. And remember, be kind to one another and be kind to yourself.